My name is Andrew Perlot. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I'm 30 years old. I love to write. I'm a nutrition geek. I read nutrition journals and just geek out on the information. I love acro yoga. I love being physically connected with people, and partner acrobatics is more broadly what I do. And you can just you can really make awesome connections in your body. You can do things with your body that is so fun. You can play, you can laugh, you can just grow with another person. It's one of my greatest joys in life, and I'm teaching that here, and yeah, it's great. I've been vegan for 11 years, and it initially started off as an experiment to see if I could make a difference with my colitis, an intestinal disorder I was suffering from. And it turned out to be a mixed bag, because eliminating dairy and meat helped, but the grain-based diet that I switched to was definitely worse for my health. But eventually I switched to a raw vegan diet, and that made a difference, so I've stuck with it. And in the subsequent years, I've really come to appreciate the environmental and moral benefits of that as well, but originally just definitely a health thing. Well, because cooked vegan wasn't good enough to get rid of my colitis, I guess is how I would say. You know, I tried cooked vegan, and I was still suffering from pretty horrible intestinal problems. For a long time, I was eating mostly raw with some cooked food, and you know, I just never got the benefits of a raw diet on a cooked vegan diet. I had maybe 90% of my normal energy level. I probably had, you know, 90–95% of my normal mental focus and just emotional poise. I just feel better. I have more energy. I have better athletic performance. I have better athletic recovery, and I think that it's just the choice that makes me feel best. So why not? I had really poor health when I was younger. I was overweight. I was technically obese, 220 pounds. And although I was eating the same thing as my family, standard American diet, I didn't take it as well. I had a lot of sickness growing up. I didn't have a lot of energy. And by the time I was in maybe 6th grade, 7th grade, I was starting to have issues with constipation and like some blood in my stool, and just not feeling like I could have regular bowel movements. And as I got into high school, things got worse. Graduated, eventually went to college, and things got really bad. It was basically got to the point where it was destroying my life. Colitis is considered an autoimmune disorder, so that the body is attacking its own intestines, your colon, and that manifests as blood in your stool. That manifests as constipation and or like swings between constipation and diarrhea. You often have like super foul smelling gas that smells like a corpse like died inside of you and is just rotting in there, and really just kind of degraded my ability to enjoy my life. And so I'd previously improved my weight by just improving my diet, cutting out a lot of the junk food, cutting out dairy, and then I went vegan, and I felt I lost some more weight. But it really wasn't until I started eating raw that my colitis went away. I actually just ate bananas for first 30 days as a trial, and things were dramatically better after 30 days, and I went 60 days. At the end of 60 days, my colitis was just gone, and then was able to broaden my diet. Previously, I hadn't been able to handle really raw vegetables very well, but was able to eat a wider variety of raw vegetables, was able to eat a wider variety of fruit, and that was back in 2005. After that, I experimented a little bit. Well, maybe I can eat a little cooked food, but never really felt great. So in 2007, I went all raw and found that, it's the best thing for my colitis. I don't have any symptoms anymore. Technically, it's an incurable disease. A doctor will usually tell you, oh, it's in remission. But I've been in remission for so many years, and as long as I keep eating how I'm eating, I don't have the disease anymore. So I think it's really just a great fix for a number of intestinal issues, and it's a pretty impressive way to live. It feels so much better. There's plenty of protein in fruits and vegetables. I'm not a bodybuilder, but most people consider me to be pretty insanely strong because of what I do with partner acrobatics. Not too shabby. So you don't need to eat anything specifically other than make sure you're eating your greens. I do have some concerns about all fruit-based diets. I think you might get a little low in protein there, but I think as long as you're eating your greens and you're eating plenty of carbohydrate-rich fruit, you're gonna be fine in the protein department. So there's this myth, if you will, in the raw food community that as long as you're eating the right raw food, you can eat as much as you want. In fact, not only can you eat as much as you want, but in fact, you should eat more than you want. You should aim for caloric targets. 3,000 calories a day is something we often hear thrown around, even if you're a sedentary 5-foot-tall woman, And this is just nonsense, and people will end up gaining weight. It's just like anything else. It is harder to gain unwanted weight on a raw diet because the caloric density is low. And it is easier to maintain your ideal weight when you've reached it because, again, low caloric density. You tend to fill up faster, you stop eating faster. And, but it doesn't mean that you can just, take date after date and just eat all this dried food and eat the more calorically dense stuff. You can't just stuff it down and expect to not gain unwanted weight. And so my experiment was I started eating more calories than I needed, dramatically more, for 75 days, and I put on 15 pounds of fat just to show people what you could do, because it's really ridiculous that people are getting fat because they're aiming for caloric targets which are way beyond what they have any need for. And I do coaching, and I've helped a lot of people lose that weight that they've gained doing that. And I just kind of wanted to, after so many people had just needed my help, I was just like, I got to do something to show people that this is ridiculous, that they should not be eating more calories than they require. And so that was just an experiment, and it gained a lot of notoriety. But it was a good experiment. I'm glad I did it. It seems to have reached a lot of people. Yeah, so the leading causes of death are heart disease and cancer, and with contributing factors like obesity and diabetes. And the thing that causes these is the really horrible Western diet based on processed foods, based on meat, dairy, and eggs, very fatty, generally moderate in carbohydrate consumption, way higher in protein than necessary. These are all huge contributing factors leading to blood sugar related issues like diabetes and prediabetes, or the dreaded candida and such like that. So people are choosing to make themselves sick. People are not being necessarily aware, or if they are aware, not really being fully conscious of the consequences of their actions, but people are eating themselves into death. And we have good evidence and published in peer-reviewed scientific journals that people can avoid the majority of their risk for the leading causes of death just by just eating a low-fat, plant-based diet based around whole foods. When you are eating a steak, you are wasting more water than you could ever use in a shower. Because of the environmental burden. And in a water lacking country such as the United States, much of our country is in drought now, and we're having huge problems. And so people are just wasting that resource on growing animals, which will then be killed. And those you have to grow feed to feed the animals and get them fat, and then we eat them. And so there's just large scale waste problems associated with that. We have huge lagoons full of cow dung. We have those periodically burst and get into our water systems. We have just excess fertilizer use to support the crops to feed the animals, and it's killing us at the same time. Versus if you just eat a plant-based diet, you're saving water, you're saving energy, you are saving oil, you are doing a lot of good for the world. And if you kick it up to a raw food diet, it's hard to say with certainty, because I don't feel like there's enough research whether or not the net benefit of, say, importing fruit because most people are going to eat some tropical fruit and import it, versus the the benefit of growing tree crops, which contributes to CO2. CO2 gets pumped into the ground, and better water preservation with trees, better cleaner air, and just less use of resources. It's kind of hard to make that trade-off, but I think definitely the world would benefit if people just ate more food from tree crops, which tend to be more resilient, tend to produce more food per acre, and are entirely satisfying. It's like, what's not to love? I mean, you've got people who are unusually relaxed, unusually happy, tend to be healthy. The lack of obesity here is startling compared to coming from the outside world. It's almost shocking, like, wow, that's maybe these people are doing something right. They're all fueled up on fruit, they like to play, and they like to do it in different ways, not necessarily the way that I like to play, but it's cool to see the variety here. I like to hear about what people are into. I like to see what they do at night, you know, after dinner or whatever, and just great people, great connections, great food, beautiful sky. Look at this background. What's not to like? There's so many different ways that we would see an effect. For instance, we know that meat consumption is meat, dairy, and egg consumption is correlated with disease, so we would probably see most of our healthcare system radically, the need for it to radically decline, and therefore our health expenditure. So much of our GDP is spent on caring for sick people. It's just unnecessary. And then we would see, most likely we would see people being happier. There's interesting research on how arachidonic acid may be a contributing factor to depression and negative mood states. So we'd probably see people happier. We would, I think, see a lot more playful humans, a lot more happy humans, a lot more people maybe pushing past their boundaries, pushing into what is a little bit scary and fun, and I think that would be overall a net benefit. I've seen this so many times in which people, when they stop numbing themselves with cooked food, when they stop eating unhealthy food, they tend to have more vitality, and either they can't deal with that extra vitality and that emotional openness, and they dive back into where they come, or they embrace it and they start pushing into new territory. Maybe they quit that job, they leave that old relationship, they push into new areas, and it makes them a better person, it makes them grow. And I think the world as a whole, if they were to embrace that, would be really great. If you're new to eating a raw food diet, probably the most common issue is people undereat because they're used to eating a far more condensed diet with high caloric density, and so you eat a very small amount and you meet your caloric needs for the day. With a raw diet, a lot of it's water. Depending on what you know, dates have a lot more caloric density than, say, a peach or a watermelon, but generally you're gonna have to eat radically more food, and so knowing that you're gonna have to eat more bites of food and thinking about it in a caloric sense to know what you're gonna need will help you to not have cravings, to not just feel like you're gonna faint from lack of energy or whatever. That's a big one. A lot of people fail to eat greens. I've tried going without greens. I find that I feel very unbalanced and my athletic performance begins to suffer. And so definitely get your greens in. I tell everyone, aim for a pound of leafy greens per day. That seems like a daunting amount, but do the best you can, and you'll slowly build up your stomach capacity by eating a few bites more every day than you normally probably would. And you have because of our atrophied stomach capacity, we are descended from the great apes, and we have a very similar digestive system. It's been changed very little by evolution, and so we, just like they can eat a whole bunch of bananas, a whole bunch of greens, and their stomach will expand, we too have that ability. It's just that the musculature of the stomach has lost that stretch capacity from atrophy, but it builds back up if you just eat a little bit more every day. So our medical system is partially built around the concept of informed consent. If you have a doctor, it's his responsibility to not only inform you about the risks and possible benefits of the procedure he's endorsing, but also give you a reasonable overview of any alternatives. And to not do so would be violation of your rights as a patient, and would open up your doctor for lawsuit. And actually, we have a lot of research. I have a video on this if you guys want to see it, but there's a lot of research indicating that doctors really do a horrible job of this. And one of the ways they're failing is to indicate to people that actually, if their patient is at great risk of a heart attack or stroke, that actually they could just go ahead and eat a low-fat plant-based diet. And studies have documented this. Almost all of the patients who do this don't have heart attacks, don't have strokes, have the atherosclerotic plaque that is built up in their arteries recede, and they regain normal blood flow. And all they do is change their diet. It's free, maybe slightly more cost for the improved food versus hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes for some of these heart bypass surgeries and operations. And it is risk-free, it is pain-free compared to having your rib cage cracked open and having a bypass graft put in, which is an extremely painful event, which it will probably disable you for a long time, which may cause brain damage in some situations. And so the fact that they're not informing people of this is criminal. And we're basically, it's going to happen where there's going to be a lawsuit. Someone's going to draw on the established science to show that some doctor did not inform their patient properly about this option. And there's going to be a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. I don't know when this is going to happen, but I'm pretty certain that we're approaching the critical mass of body of evidence and the discussion in medical journals of the subject where it can't be denied anymore. And when that happens, someone's gonna get a heart bypass operation. They're gonna find out that they could have just changed their diet for free, and they're gonna sue the crap out of a doctor or a hospital, and they're gonna win millions of dollars. And when doctors start losing that much money, they're going to have to change. Hospital systems won't survive those kind of lawsuits. So I think that would be the major change in the medical industry. If you're suffering with ill health, if you feel like you don't have the vitality you're looking for, there is probably a fix. It's not always diet, it's often diet. You know, and I don't want to sugarcoat this. I don't want to make you think like, oh, only eating raw fruits and vegetables automatically fixes everything. There are other circumstances. Some people have poor health and they might need some additional nutritional adjuncts. They may need a supplement or something. But for the most part, people who start eating raw fruits and vegetables, they tend to become very healthy. They tend to have increased vitality. They tend to not get sick anymore. I haven't been sick in like 10 years. And their health problems tend to go away. So I would say that if you're suffering out there, maybe try eating a low-fat raw vegan diet and see what it does for you. Give it a trial of a month. Stick with it for a month. See where it leaves you. I think you'll probably be impressed. I'm on YouTube. If you just search Andrew Perlot, you'll find me, P-E-R-L-O-T. I'm on, my website is raw-food-health.net, and I've got an email list where I send out articles and videos and special offers to people, which you can find and sign up for through my website or through YouTube.